Welcome to Turn Extension, a supplemental podcast for the Advanced Maneuvers YouTube channel.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Turn Extension. My name is Tony, or Polar Bear Cub on the forums.
I'm Kevin.
Hey everybody, this is Devin, Cutthroat Kier on the forums.
Hi, this is Gaston.
Alright, so we're back for another week. We're going to talk a little bit about the CID, and then we're going to jump into some other topics. So starting off, so we had a massive update. Well, not a massive update, but we had an update, and one of the ones was Immunities. Herman, you want to talk about that Immunities update?
So they changed it from -1 dice to +4 armor, which I am a fan of.
I think it's interesting. That's what we talked about on the cast last week. That's what you felt like would be an appropriate change.
I'm pretty sure that I'm a psychic.
That or they actually listen to us.
I'm willing to prescribe to the prior before I'm willing to subscribe to the latter.
I mean,
I should be a game designer. I have like one good contribution each cycle.
I mean, if they're listening to us,
you shouldn't.
Yeah, you should not be a game designer because you would have just nerfed so many other things to the ground already.
You mean like I talked about nerfing Locke and McKay?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Yeah,
everybody's army would come with a free avatar.
That is true.
Dude, I am pretty okay with being the Oprah Winfrey of Protectorate.
You get an avatar, and you get an avatar, and you get an avatar.
So
I'm
Devin,
willing to take that mantle.
So Devin, with this change with the +4 armor, what do you feel with your trolls? What do you think about that change?
I mean, I enjoy it. It just makes me wish that I could, it makes me miss the old days of Mark II lights, because I would love to be able to take, like, Flaming Fist and stuff like that and put it onto, let's say, like, Madrak 1 against Menoth and then have +4 armor.
He does not need any more help.
But you get what I'm saying. Like, stuff like that, them being able to be put on units, even being able to put it on, like, the frontmost champion, especially trying to control a zone, would be just amazing. It'd be like, all right, I take 4.
Yeah, but I think like last week we mentioned, I think the units that get hit the most are those single wound models, especially like low armor single wound models. Because I'm looking at situations like, the Zealots out of Menoth. If they go immune, +4 is going to turn them into armor 16, but they're still going to die.
Do they still get the +4 armor if they took damage from an enemy attack the previous turn?
Potentially, but I don't, that might help I don't even know if it's previous turn. It's just, I don't know, give me a second to look it up, but I think it's just for that moment, or for that round, for one turn. So yeah, it would apply. So if they had taken damage prior, then they'll be up to 20. But that's not going to trigger on, the first person burned is everybody else is going to burn. They're not going to get the armor from a continuous effect because it's not an enemy attack.
Well, my point is more that the Zealots care about the immunity because of their own bombs.
Yeah, I mean, with the close range of it, I could see that being a concern. It's one of those situations where, even like druids and stuff like that, it's going to be, if you're single wound and you've got a low armor, this change, though less spiky, you may end up getting a situation where the person rolls double ones and you live, but it's not necessarily a solid math solution. I think it's better.
It returns the bell curve. And it returns predictability. And one of the things that is the reason I like this game, and I don't like 40k, and I don't like Guild Ball, is I like bell curves. I think that is a superior dice system.
So I'm guessing, Guild Ball and stuff doesn't have any type of bell curve?
No, you try to hit a target number, and you roll X number of dice, and you're looking for, a 3-up.
Okay.
Single dice mechanics versus double dice mechanic. Bell curves can't exist on a single dice mechanic.
Right. Tony.
My bad. So sorry. Never played 40k, and I only played one drunk game of Guild Ball.
But you played it with the designer.
I did play it with the designer. It wasn't the designer, but I played it with a designer.
Actually, is there any other game? I'm trying to think. Is there any other game that does double, like, a 2 dice pair up mechanic? Where you're taking 2 dice and rolling it together? Because, like, Infinity doesn't do it that way. It's a comparable roll between dice. Guild Ball 40K, we've already said is single.
Company of Iron does.
Okay, let's say outside of Privateer Press, does anybody do 2 dice combined mechanic?
The Mech Warrior done by Hero Clicks.
Oh, dear God. We're reaching here.
Reaching back to, what, early 2000s?
Yeah.
But that had the 2 dice mechanic.
Yeah, so it's a mechanic exclusive to Warmachine and Hordes, or Privateer Press games, I guess I should say.
But it's a mechanic I like. I like having bell curves.
I think it is interesting. It's something I didn't think about. I heard one other suggestion that people had brought up was instead of doing a +4 armor was potentially taking it to half damage. I wasn't too sure if that would be interesting or not, if that would just make units too strong where it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense.
I think that might be swinging it too far the other direction.
Most likely.
Like, I think the route that they're going, the whole plus armor, is not only provides a more balanced mechanic, but also makes it so that it doesn't change mechanics of your opponent. So, as I mentioned last time, something that introduces the game that increases the ability of engagement without necessarily making it binary, but at the same time not making it so that a new player has to go, wait, so am I rolling 1 dice now, or am I rolling 2 dice now, or like how's this work because of your rule, not specifically my rule? So by keeping it just a flat 2 dice like you normally would and just increasing the armor, it puts the onus on you to be like, oh, well, you're attacking me with fire, my armor is now this. I think the question at hand now is more, what is that number? Is 4 the right number? Is 3 the right number? Is 5 the right number? Or should we just go to 10 and say screw it?
It's interesting. So my next question for the group, which I think is an interesting one, is that, so we know this change is going to come, right? It's not something that they were just playtesting and they're not going to come out, because we've seen it every time they've come out with talk about rules in CID, they're 100% going to be released in some form. This immunities change is going to be huge. When do you think it's going to drop? You think they're going to drop it post lock and load so that people have consistency with the rule up until lock and load, and then when the new steamroller comes out, that's when the new immunities drop? Or do you think it's going to happen before?
I think it's going to drop when, I think that if it gets decided that it'll drop a lot sooner. I think it'll be one of those ones where they do like a one time, they drop like one rule, you know what I'm saying?
I think it'll drop with a dynamic update, but I think you make an incredibly valid point on waiting for the cycle to change, because lock and load is also when Crucible Guard come out, and that is, whether or not they're willing to admit it, that is the driving force behind this.
I was going to say, I think it's more just hinged on when Crucible comes out is when it will come out, because they're the ones that we're even having this discussion.
So the issue I see with that is if they drop when Crucible Guard comes out, that means they're dropping it the Friday before their Masters, which I don't see them doing that.
That or they're dropping it in July when Crucible Guard releases to the public.
I could see that being more likely, but we are going to see all of the rules for Crucible Guard come out in June, right at lock and load. Possibly the day, it would either be the day before or the morning of, because that's what they did with Grimkin. It was a day or two beforehand. I think it was the Wednesday, possibly before lock and load is when they dropped it. Maybe that Thursday.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that Privateer Press did a release in War Room at lock and load at a specific designated time. So it could be a scenario of, everybody gets their Crucible Guard stuff, and then there's somebody from Tinker House at lock and load ready to push the button to launch the... You
mean Pagani. Pagani has full access to that. When we were at what do you call it? Mox's. No, Mox's.
Yeah, I know that Pagani can release the updates and all that stuff. I'm talking about the update to the rule in War Room.
No, he can make changes to War Room from his computer. Because when we were sitting,
that doesn't sound good.
Pagani is God.
It was funny. We were sitting there at Mox's, and he had to make a change and something when Grimkin released. So he immediately, while we were sitting there at Mox's, got onto his laptop and made the change and then posted it, and it updated War Room.
Everybody always jokes about oh, well, you're playing me and I'm a privateer press person and I'll just go into the system and change the rules so that I'm right. That just validates that joke as a potential.
You're just jealous.
I mean, I'm jealous. I want to be able to mess with the rules.
They're just jealous because we're young and in love.
I don't know about you. I'm pretty old and cynical.
Yeah, I feel pretty old now.
Same.
I was playing Carver yesterday, and I'm like, I've been with this Warcaster longer than I've been with my wife.
That's pretty amusing, actually.
Does he look the same?
No, I've actually got a different Carver than the one I started with. I hadn't thought of that.
So what you're saying is you left your old Carver for a newer model?
Pretty much.
No.
Asshole.
Ooh.
A newer one that's pink, too.
All right, so any final thoughts on the Immunities update?
I mean, I think it's good overall for the game. I don't really care if it's 1d6 or plus 4 armor. I prefer the bell curve, but I think everyone's blowing it way out of proportion with freaking out about cleansers and that other stuff. It's fine.
It's going to be like any other change to the rules. People are going to have issue to it. The rule's going to come out. People are going to whine, bitch, and complain on the Facebook groups. And a week later, we'll all move on and be used to our new immunity overlords.
Well, that's because they usually give us something new to whine, bitch, and complain about.
Exactly.
All right, so next thing that came out was a couple of updates, just Crucible Guard. One thing I kind of want to talk about actually was Locke. And the reason I want to talk about Locke is because, well, she is a Convergence caster as well. So if any of you guys didn't know, the Locke's feat originally, it was a super purification, so it only purified enemy model stuff. And then if you cast any spells, activate any animi, or spend any focus or fury, it would allow her to cast a free spell and gain a focus point. So it was broken mechanically because it wasn't saying that if you spend a focus during your activation. So it allowed you to trigger where if a Warcaster overboosted, or if a Warlock spent a fury point to transfer damage, that counted towards her being able to cast a free spell and gain an additional focus. So it was mechanically very, very powerful. So what they did was they fixed that so that doesn't happen, but they also had it to where you only gain the additional focus and the spell if somebody casts a spell in your control area, which changes the feat to where it's not as aggressive. So on the forums, there's been I guess on Facebook, there's been a lot of anger about it. And I thought it was interesting because a lot of people are saying that's completely worthless feat now.
Thank God she doesn't have an A+ spell list to go with it.
I was going to say, like, you can't have an amazing feat and an amazing spell list because then why would you play anything else?
Unless you're Signar.
Unless you're Signar, yeah. Well, I guess my argument is this feat still is not bad. At the very least, it still removes all enemy upkeeps and animi. And then if you're in Convergence, it forces, if a model wants to cast a spell and they don't want to trigger your feat, they have to move out of your control area, which in Convergence, that's a 16-inch control area. In Crucible Guard, that's a 14-inch. That's a huge bubble that they have to actively get out of there in order to cast a spell. So in essence, you're controlling your opponent's movements.
Well,
and I mean, the other thing I think people discount with that is how far up you can play the caster. Like, I was playing against, like, CJ's Magnus 2 a couple times, and he's like, oh, you're mandated to put a building in the middle of the table. What would be a great place to put Magnus? Right behind the building? Like, you can get your caster far up now in SR, whatever the hell year it is.
17 still.
Okay, there you go. SR 2017.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, Kevin.
No, I was just going to say, like, I don't think there's a situation where Privateer Press is ever going to create a just completely shit-tastic feat on any of these new CID casters. But, that, like you said, that feat's not horrible. It's just not super out of the, super crazy balls amazing. Her spell list is. That's what you should be building off of.
Yeah, her spell is awesome. Don't get me wrong. I would be so giddy if they brought back that spell, like the additional spinning focus or fury. I would love that. I'd be really excited. I don't know if they will. I think they want to see how she plays and how people are playing her, because it's not as an aggressive feat, but it's like what you guys said. She has a great spell list. Jackhammer is really good. That bomb spell where it pushes models at up to D6 away, that is awesome because it's not a direct hit, it's just models hit or push D6 directly away. And then also just with Sentry or with Road to War and stuff like that, that is really good spell she has. I mean, shit, if she had Jumpstart, I would only use her because then I have to worry about stupid like things where like models get knocked down all the time. Like that would be amazing.
Well, I mean, and the other thing is, like, are you serious with complaining about the feat getting nerfed? Every time you spend a point of focus, she got to cast, a 2-cost, 3-cost spell for free?
Yeah.
Like, really?
I mean, I think a lot of people were trying to cast that 1-cost spell, the Jackhammer, but yeah, that's true. They could.
But she's also got the Bombshell spell, which is a 2 or 3. I don't really feel like looking up which.
Believe it's a 3-cost spell. Which is a really good spell, because that's why I said it. Any models hit, you can knock them D6 away. If they're not killed by the blast, they get knocked D6 away, which is great for, I think, zone stuff like that, potentially knocking models out of them.
Yeah, no, the value is ridiculous, and people are ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a 3-cost spell. It's a range 10, 3-cost, AoE 3, power 13 spell. You could cast for free. That's really good.
So I got to ask Tony, because she's a convergence caster, the way she is right now, how does she rank up with the other convergence casters? Like, obviously, I don't feel like she's down in the Aurora category, nor do I necessarily feel like she's going to always be played like Lucant seems to be. But could she potentially like topple Mother from seeing lists, or there's always like the 2 or 3 that COC players always play?
So the 3 that are extremely popular are Orion, Lucant, and Axis. The issue is right now is that she can give your casters a mat 9, which is really good. But Lucant can pretty reliably give your whole army a +2 mat and a +2 damage just because of one of his spells. He can cast on a Jack and then or mount on within 3 inches, I believe it is, they get +2/+2. That's something that Locke does not have. She does not have any damage increasing ability, which Lucant has. Axis does on his feat turn, where he gives +2 strength, and Orion can on his feat turn. So that's where I think she's going to have struggles with. I think pre-feat change, if it was with all the additional to any time you spend a focus or fury, I think she easily could have toppled Axis. I think right now she's going to be fighting a lot with what Axis does, because not only did her normal feat change, and her precision change as well, which I believe it's precision strikes, so it only triggers off of melee, not off of range attacks anymore. So that changes stuff as well. So I think currently she's going to struggle to break that top 3, but I think some people will play her with top 3 because she has Jackhammer. That's something very unique to our lineup that we don't have anywhere else. No other caster has any type of Jackhammer. She is a true Warjack caster in that way.
So does that mean most of the time you're going to see her in like Destruction Initiative or something?
I think you 100% see her in Destruction Initiative. Nothing about her build does anything for Clockwork Legion. She is a full-on 100% Jackcaster because all of her spells rely around her battle. So
I'm going to counter you a little bit there.
Okay.
And say she offers a roughly equivalent hitting mat, and she doesn't have the damage buff. But what she brings that's unique is Road to War and Redline and the positioning game.
You know what, you're right. Actually, the Redline does add to the strength, so I will take that back. She does have a way to increase strength. That was my fight. Totally forgot that Redline adds +2 strength.
So, and then you
Redline's
have
going to be good.
Servitors. You couldn't ask for a better Warpath trigger.
Yeah, and that's true. And I think that's where, but I think she's still going to struggle with where Axis plays at, because Axis gives your Wardrex countercharge. You can get the +2 strength, you get the +2 speed, and then you can also stop your opponents from charging one turn with that. And I think that's going to be kind of where they don't necessarily play the exact same niche, but they play close enough where it's going to be a choice. I do think you will see lock in a rotation in people's armies. I think what I see right now is, it's like I said, it's really between Axis, LeConte, and Orion, and it's going to be which one is she going to knock out? I don't know.
So, are you willing to accept a challenge of Orion and Locke for the last 2 quarters of 2018? Like, locking those in, those are your 2 casters for the half year, finishing out 2018.
Well, wait a minute. He already got challenged to Aurora for the first quarter.
Oh, I successfully completed that one.
That's easy.
So he's
I'm
already
just saying.
met that challenge. I'm saying
I've already met that
quarter
challenge.
Quarter 3, quarter 4, lock in Orion and Locke as your only 2 casters that you play for those 6 months.
If I'm playing as just Convergence, yes, I will lock that in. Get it? Lock it in. I'm hilarious.
You're the reason we stopped this channel.
Sorry, what was that?
Nothing.
I would have defended you, but I'm muted and gluing my fingers together.
I would have said something else, but my dog is growling at me right now.
So, how about we move on to the next one?
Is it me ranting about how PP keeps making these things too damn detailed?
Just be happy you've got
we-
your husks.
let's talk
I
about
am
mechanics.
happy, but I'm looking at them and they got like bugs coming out of them and like zits and shit. I'm like, I don't want to paint all that.
Don't worry, you won't.
Yeah, just paint one color and then wash it. It'll be fine.
Probably. Man, they have started adding a lot of detail to their models. Like, I was going through the Soul Slave and painting that motherfucker up, and I'm like, dude, you're a caster attachment. Why do you have this many details?
Why are there this many goddamn candles?
Oh, so many candles.
I can't.
Anyways,
remember.
sorry.
Yeah.
Direct.
No, it's no problem.
Champions.
Yeah, so champions. So there is a change of champions. Kevin, you want to talk about it?
Devin, Ken?
Devin, do you want to talk about the change to champions that Gaston and I absolutely love, and you guys are, for some reason, not as excited about?
So it seems like Champions, which was the last one that was holding out the painting requirement, has now toppled, and there is no longer a painting requirement for Champions. Now, while they still are doing the painting award for it, so if you did paint your stuff, you're not completely out. It's not required, so get used to seeing some gray plastic or metal come your convention time.
I actually, there isn't a single format now that requires painting anymore, right? They're all gone.
Yep, that was the last one.
Down with the reign of painting.
Put your paintbrushes down.
Advanced maneuvers is next. Advanced maneuvers is next.
Not as long as I'm at the helm.
My army is naked.
Super naked.
So I mean, this is one of those situations where I hate being able to see both sides of the track. If you've got a format where you're trying to make it new player friendly, taking stuff like painting out of the equation makes it even more new player friendly, because somebody can literally buy an army at the store, put it together, and immediately go into the tournament.
So just for fun, I'm going to argue with you. How the hell is Champions new player friendly?
Well, I don't necessarily think it is, but that's always been something that Privateer Press has been saying. It
is though, because you always are going to have the battle box caster as one of the casters you can play. So if you're a new player and you started the way as so many did, and you got the battle box, then you already have one of the casters. You only have to play one caster technically. So there's that. There's no painting requirement, and it's basically, other than they got rid of the time limit stuff like they used to have. So I mean, there's really not much.
You're missing one barrier to model purchasing entry.
What's that?
Themes are limited.
Yeah, themes are limited, but I mean, you can build so much with so little with themes right now.
There's a couple of people who would argue that point, that you can't build so much with themes right now.
I 100% disagree. I have like 50 lists, and they're all in theme, and they're all different.
No, I mean in the sense of so one of the things about Champion that's been changed is that well, theoretically is changed because we're dealing with not rules yet, is that Champions is now not only going to have the delimitation of the 4 casters, but it's going to have a delimitation of 2 types of themes. And there's some factions like Mercs where you could have 2 themes that have 0 model crossover.
Well, let's be completely honest. If you're a new player and you're probably playing in this, then you're only playing one list.
That's true. But then it becomes like a situation of so I go out and I buy the circle battle box with Tanith and all the wolves and all that stuff. I cannot play in Bones of Oribos, nor can I technically play in Devour. I mean, I guess I could play in Devour Host, but I'm literally just taking models for the sake of taking models, not because there are any theme benefit. So I don't know. Maybe it is new player friendly. Like I guess I don't know. That's a weird one because I know that Privateer Press has always been kind of toying like Champions is new. It's limited format. There's less to learn in order to play because you only have to worry about the other 4 casters in the other list. And by reducing the painting entry, which is the point that we were talking about earlier, that makes it that much closer or that much easier to participate in that format as a new player. That being said, the flip side of it is if Champions is your new player format, then you're bringing a bunch of new players into, as Devin proposed the Armageddon scenario, you're bringing a bunch of new players in who will now forevermore just associate Warmachine and Hordes as a gray, unpainted army game. Period. Like you don't.
As opposed to every other miniatures war game.
That's every single format they have now.
I mean, is it really that big of an issue though?
Yeah, I mean, I look at 40K games all the time, and it's like unpainted blobs of red primer and black primer and gray plastic.
You're not seeing them in a tournament format then.
Well, they have to have 3 prime colors, right? So it's a quick spray paint, some eyes, and a wash.
Nova in some of the areas around here, they all require painting. So, like Nova, to be part of the 40K Grand Prix, you have to be painted.
That sounds awful.
It's one of those situations where I find it extremely entertaining when I hear people who are like, I don't want to paint my models, I don't want to have terrain on the table. Like I'm waiting for the day when people come along and go, we have these new pogs, so we don't even need the models anymore. In which case I'm going to look at them and go play goddamn video games then.
I mean, that's
Sheridan and I have already played that.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of what 2D terrain did anyways.
The Grimkin tokens.
The Grimkin token, I do remember that.
We literally pogged a whole army. It was fine.
Dude, I would love to do that with the Crucible Guard right now. I was hoping someone would be selling something like that online.
I'll give it time.
Just get like a bunch of little cutouts and cut them out.
I don't understand. I live in a different world with a different desire when it comes to war games, and I think that's one of the things about Warmachine and Hordes is that I think Warmachine and Hordes, that spectrum of hobbyist versus I just want to play the tactics of the game. I don't give a shit about the models or the terrain or anything like that. I think that spectrum has a broader gap than in other systems.
Hey, look, like I paint my shit, but I'm not going to go tell you what to do with yours.
I mean, I will definitely say that when it comes to like terrain and stuff, like when it comes, Warmachine and Hordes events have the least I've ever seen.
Oh no, we totally get, as a community, we totally get railed on by the other communities. Like I hear Malifaux podcasts and 40K podcasts and stuff like that just don't understand how we play this game the way we do.
40K players don't understand how they play the game that they do. Like I'll give you the Malifaux ones because I love that game and terrain is integral to that game.
No,
40K people can't even figure their shit out.
Herman, pull up your zipper. Your bias is showing.
Oh, I'll flap that bias all over the table. I love that game.
It's just about every game that kind of has that opinion. We are a different community. We are a different animal when it comes to the wargaming community. But to the point of the whole champions thing, removing the painting helps. Make it more new player friendly. And I don't know. Does the addition of limited themes help new players?
I mean, it depends on the themes they get.
It depends on which starter box you bought.
I agree with that.
I mean, is it the similar statement to like you have less casters you need to learn as you have less themes you need to learn?
Well, I'll cycle back to this one part also. How many Champions format tournaments are there even played?
Well,
Every convention.
The conventions usually have ones that usually runs the other day from Masters. But at locals, I don't think I've ever heard in our area of a quote-unquote champions event.
Yeah. So you're gearing up and you're getting all huffy about something you're going to see once every 6 months.
I'm not getting huffy about anything. It's in the end, people are going to play whatever they want to play. I've backed off on the whole painting requirement because that's the way I want to play the game, but obviously...
I'm pretty sure you have literally spray-painted Huffy across your chest.
Huffy.
But
So,
it doesn't
side
matter.
note, just found a proxy set for Crucible Guard
There you
on
go.
Etsy.
Yes!
Yeah, just
Now we need to get a battle report on the channel that's the Grimkin token set versus the Convergence token set on 2D terrain on a 2D mat.
all right. You heard it. He said we can do it.
You know what?
You just heard him.
You want cutting edge battle reports. They literally cut those edges.
That is very true. All right, you heard it. He said we could play him.
And then they round them out. That's what you call some rounded lists.
Yeah, it's the CID process, rounding those edges.
Truth.
You know, actually, it makes filming it easier because we can just do a top-down and not have to do the side angle.
No, you want the side angle so you get perspective.
That's true.
Sure.
Dude, haven't you ever read Flatland? They needed that fog in order to get the distance.
I think what's really insane is the fact that, like, other than I went to a tournament this weekend, and everybody was so surprised when it was in all of the listings, but nobody really realized it, that the entire time they were playing in a Masters event. So when the DNC came out, then everybody was like, shit, because they didn't realize it. And, it goes back into saying, like what you said about champions. You don't see many other formats other than the main types.
That being said, if you're bringing 2 lists, you better be prepared to play them, I think.
You don't
just
have
kind
to.
of feel...
In SR, you don't have to.
That's
yeah,
true.
but like, even
Why not
when
switch
it's
to
optional,
3
I
lists
still play
then?
2.
You should just switch to 3.
I'm okay with 3.
I'm great with 3. Let's start doing 3 lists. Then I don't have to decide anymore what I want to play.
3
Will you
lists
just,
DNC.
will you just flip a point?
No DNC because I got rid of DNC.
Did they get rid of it like completely? It does not exist anymore?
I believe
Anywhere?
it is an alternative you can do now, but in the Masters format, there is no more DNC. DNC is dead. Long live DNC.
Okay.
Well, here comes these super all-comers lists.
No, ideally it's going to be a situation where you get players who have one list that they're really, really great at and another list that they're at, but it, quote-unquote, addresses their bad matchups or tries to chase away their bad matchups.
Yeah, which I think that's really good. I'm excited about that.
Both lists, Jesus.
Well, it makes it too where if I have this list where, hey, this is my cricks drop, right? This is the list I'm very comfortable doing cricks with, and I get cricks every single round. If I were to make it to the final round, I don't get screwed and I have to play my list that is not strong against cricks. Like if I have my Orion list, I'm like, look guys, this is my cricks drop. Orion can deal with a lot of cricks. And then I get to the tournaments, I get to the final, I'm like, shit, I've got to play lock. I'm not going to be as comfortable playing my lock into as I would with Orion.
That hiccup made you sound like a drunk person saying that.
I mean, who's to say I'm not drunk?
Right?
No, I'm fine with that reasoning. I'm just like, if you can't play both the lists you brought to a tournament, then play more.
Yep.
And honestly, when you're practicing, play bad matchups. Like, I call it, character growth. Yeah,
Well, you know
like,
what?
well, I'm going to learn.
Now I don't have to.
Oh, Padawan, always taking the
Because-
shortcut you are.
Because you don't have bad matchups?
No, because I just have to only play one list now if I want to.
I mean, let's
Oh,
be
no.
serious. Locke is so good that there are no bad matchups.
I mean, if her fee gets changed back to what it was before, then yes. Also, side note, saw her character model? She should definitely have 2-inch reach with how long those damn arms are. They are as long as Warjacks. They should
Am I the only person
definitely
who
be
saw
2-inch.
that model and immediately thought that those arms were like the little wavy arms that you see on the sail balloon things? It's just like these two arms just kind of flailing about in the air.
I did not think about that.
I'm going to be honest, the only models I see are Husks.
There is only Husk.
My
Oh,
only
the
regret
Husks
is I
belong
didn't
to
go
us.
max FA.
Well, there's always
What
time to
is
change.
3?
3. I only bought 2
Two.
to start.
I was gonna say you're one off. Yeah, I don't know. The new champions format, I legitimately, before I saw it in the CID, I was like, I'm going to champion champions. I'm going to just play champions at Nova Open and PAX Unplugged and anywhere I go. I'm just going to play champions. And then I saw the champions and I was like, I'm less excited.
Why?
Solely because of not painting?
No.
Okay.
Because I'll paint my models. I don't care what the rule is. I don't know if it's a combination of I'm not a huge fan of the man-off pairings, or I'm not a huge fan of the theme limitation. Like, you have to play one of each theme, so you're kind of stuck in this matrix of choosing limited casters and choosing limited themes and praying to God that PP put the effort into making sure that they put good casters with good themes.
I mean, I think that's why they put it through the CID cycle. I didn't look to see which ones were for convergence. So
I mean, the Protectorate ones did change.
I know they changed how the convergence ones work, because originally convergence only got one theme and 3 casters, and you could only play the theme. You didn't have the option for 2 because they're a limited faction, so they get less.
Yeah, I think they gave the limited factions too, just so that there is the choice and the representation there. I think they're the only thing limiting on the limited factions is the amount of casters you guys get versus the lower things. I don't know. It's maybe it'll change when they release it. Maybe I'll have a different opinion on it. But the whole theme thing kind of threw me into a little bit of a dislike. I won't even say dislike, because I still think it's an excellent format. I'm just not excited about it.
I'll be honest, the whole theme thing, like, you could take away the painting, you could take away 95% of it, but the theme thing really kills it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think limited format is limited, which stinks, but I think it's going to, some people are going to play it. I'm curious to see how next year's end of the year tournament will go, with it being a limited format required, because next champions, it's going to be this limited format. I mean, next year for Lock and Load will be this limited format. Will be champions.
Yeah,
I mean, Nova is going to be the limited format. Warmachine Weekend will be the limited format.
No, what he means is the Iron Gauntlet circuit. This year, Iron Gauntlet circuit final tournament is going to be Masters. Next year's it's going to be Champions. So the people who win Iron Gauntlet circuit and go to Lock and Load have to play Champions.
Unless they change it.
I don't really get the passion behind theming or not theming, to be honest. Like, when the themes didn't exist, I built lists.
Due
when
to
the themes
theme
did exist,
or not to theme?
I built theme lists. I mean, it's just, adjust your lists.
I actually think it's a huge fault in the game, personally, because, and really narrow-minded on privateer thought, because, yes, one of the reasons everybody got excited about Mark III was because of the fact that you had things like these crazy boogeyman themes disappear, and now all we see are themes. This is the only, because this is what they've now designated as the tournament. These are the lists. You can't see a single list that doesn't have a theme, and I think that's kind of ridiculous, because then it takes away that whole idea of, especially in the tournament fashion, of being able to play that list that's, very different. It's like you kind of took away a lot of the creative spirit, because, if you don't want to play 15 points down, you have to play a theme.
So previously everybody was upset that the lists weren't narrative. So now that the narrative lists are the competitive ones, everyone's upset about that?
No, I don't like heavy restriction. Like, we're already restricted on our rules. We already restrict ourselves with like the point cost. Why shouldn't I be able to play a caster and have a fair chance to mix stuff within it? Like, basically, if you play outside of a theme, you're basically accepting that you're not gonna win, and I just don't think that's a good format.
I don't think you can say you're not going to win. There's assassination's always a potential matter. If you're out of balance in points or you're in a bad situation, assassination is always a win potential, no matter where you lay on the spectrum of success in a game. So you can't say you're not going to win. You may have a more difficult time. You may have an uphill battle, but I guess I'm going to agree with Herman here on this. It's just a situation of people just, like, it's one of those situations where we can gripe and complain and express our disinterest in something like that, but in the end of the day, as frustrated as I am with, or not frustrated, as disinterested as I am with Champions, it's the rules. Like, end of story. Your complaining is null and void. It's the rules. It's the format. Now it's on you as a player to make a choice.
And that's the sad part, is that I'll never play in Champions again. They lost me in that. When I went to know...
They may change it in a year. You don't know.
But what I'm saying is, if it stays as it is right now, I'll never play it again, because I don't believe it's fair. I don't believe that it is a good format. And honestly, any format, like, even, if you play in a steamroller and stuff like that, you have that option. Hey, I want to do this, or hey, I want to do that. Champions was about, hey, you're playing lists fast. Now it's what theme are you going to choose, and what, oh, here's your 4 choices, here's your 2 choices, go.
So previously you were super excited about Champions before these changes.
Me?
No, Devin.
Oh.
You were.
Yeah.
How many did you play in?
Silence.
I believe the answer
I think it was Child.
Yeah,
No.
I was going to say it's Child.
I think the answer
answer
is Child.
is none, because, like I said before, in our area there has not been a Champions format. That doesn't necessarily null the fact that he was interested in playing it at conventions like Nova Open that he runs.
But he runs Nova Open. That's the one he can play in, and he runs it. He owns that convention.
And 2 years ago, I fucking loved playing in it. Like, I was so excited about that. And when I went to, look at Lock and Load. When I took Master Craftsman for Champions, like, I spent the entire year doing 2 things. A, getting my list together, which wasn't in a theme, and making sure that it was cohesive, it ran well, and that I had a good time making sure that it looked really good. And what they've done is they took something that was, hey, this is for the people that, you want to see a lot of, maybe you don't want to play green on it, but maybe you want to play with just painted armies. Like, that was the thing. That was what its niche was. And they took something whose niche was basically play against beautiful armies that are all painted, really bust yourself so that you have an option of basically winning a painting award. And then they basically said, we're going to change all of that. Painting doesn't matter, which was a staple of it. And now it's all about, can you somehow luckily play in the one faction that happened to get the lucky roll this ADR faction, because everybody else might have gotten, a real sucky one, but, you got, like, the perfect Legion pairing, and, you happen to grab the perfect Legion theme list that happened to be there. It's now a numbers game. It's not even about, and, for people who want to paint, sure, you can spend all your time to paint and you still have the ability to win a painting award. But when you're putting your beautiful painted army against a bullshit gray army, it kind of takes the whole fucking feeling away from it. So, yes, they've lost me as a player in that. And if I wasn't running Nova and Champions was in the format that it is right now, I would not sign up for it. I would not play in it, and I'm not excited for it.
So sorry, so I missed part of that. But so does that mean you feel the exact same way about the Masters tournament then? Or is it because it's not limited, you're more open to it?
I would be more interested in Masters now than I am in Champions. And Champions was my shit. Like, I planned for like 2 years for champions. Like for Nova 2014 or 2015, I mean, I planned forever to, you know, make sure I had my army together, and me and, you know, Brendan, you know, went head to head. And while we may not have won the whole thing, you know, we went head to head in the painting category, and the battle report between us was absolutely beautiful. Where now it's like, I'm either, when you're going into champions, you're either going to play somebody who's playing something so ridiculously competitive and ugly, or you're going to play someone's army who probably took a lot of time, but they're just going to get their asshole handed to them. At least before, it was like, you know, even if you had to throw down your painting and just basically just get it done or whatever, you know, because you were the competitive type, it was still that drive, you know, and it kind of pushed people into doing that. And now it's like there's no reason for it, and not only on top of that, but it just takes away the creative function because you can only play certain people. It's like, I don't know.
So I'm gonna put you on the post here and say that it sounds like most of your frustration is from a hobbyist standpoint, and not you're still frustrated about the limitations of the format and stuff like that. But I think you're drawing a lot of parallels to the hobby side of it, and I totally get that, because back when you were in Champions, it was very much the replacement for hardcore and stuff like that, and you get the painting requirement, and it had a painting element to it. And Privateer Press is still technically doing that with the award, but it's for those not following along, it really feels like your frustration is more of a hobby issue, and then the restriction is just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back.
It's just because it's a hobby related, because, you know, if you want to be super competitive, you played in before Iron Gauntlet, you played in Masters, you know? Like Masters, that's why there's 2 fucking heats of Masters, because everybody would try and throw their armies into Masters Heat 1, and if you didn't pan out in Masters Heat 1, then you either said, how good am I doing, or do I drop and go to Masters Heat 2? And that's why Masters has 2 heats. It's one of the longest events. Champions was basically about that. Like, you championed yourself into having this really nice army. You put in all the effort. You took the time to put together your army. You learned your army. You played games. It used to have one of the hardest rule sets with hardcore because of the 7-minute turns, but, you know, they took that away. Whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. And you basically got to play. It was the beautiful tournament. You know, it could be bloodthirsty, but while the entire time it was bloodthirsty, it was beautiful, and it was free range, you know? Where you had stuff like Iron Gauntlet, where you had to play specific casters so that you could create a specific list at the end if you actually made it far enough. There's your dynamic, you know? Or if you wanted to play Masters, that was where you were seeing a bunch of bullshit, gray crap, and everybody was just playing anything that was just as mean as possible because of the fact that, you know, who cares about any part of it? And they've basically taken the only one that had any hobby interest, which I hate to tell you, this half of this game is a hobby, and they basically just shit on it. So unless you're playing at a lock and load event where they have, you know, the P3 painting, which is basically for the best of the best, the people who spend a lot of time to take their army and make it cohesive and look beautiful as a whole really kind of get shit on.
Well, I mean, do you think that I'm like a power gamer?
I think you're competitive, and I think you're good.
I mean, my armies are fully painted. Are they crappy looking?
I agree with you, but you also, as you said, it's because of the requirement. If Kevin didn't require you for the longest time to do it, you probably wouldn't be as painted as you are. Am I wrong?
I wouldn't be painted at all.
You're wrong, and the only reason I'm going to say you're wrong is because his Protectorate was painted long before I came along.
Well, that's why I asked. You know, I'm not throwing anything bad at Gaston. I'm just saying.
I think it's a situation where you're.
Don't let him know about that.
No, I'm calling you out. You had your Protectorate painted long before. Don't even blame it on me. I think it's a situation where
it just seems like they're adding rules to it for no reason. I see no point I see no benefit to this. I only actually see negatives. And I'm not even talking about the painting. The painting thing is just an irritant to me because, as I said, this was my event, and now I'm seeing my event get shit on. But when it comes to the theme lists and the specific casters, I was completely fine with just being able to play specific casters, you know?
So, well, one of the things
how
that
can
you
a
mentioned...
theme not create a cohesive army? It's a theme.
What I'm saying is people...
I think restricted themes creates an imbalance. Because I don't think anybody on this call can say beyond a shadow of a doubt every theme is on the same level.
No, I'm talking about like the Trencher theme makes a cohesive Trencher army.
Agreed.
Oh,
But if you're a faction who doesn't get the best theme with your other best theme, and you get the perceived bad themes, are you going to have a good turnout in Champions? Potentially not.
Let's be completely honest, okay? Let's take Trolls here, okay? Let's say we go into Champions. We have 4 themes right now, okay? We have, Winter Storm, we have Creel Company, Power of Dunia, and we have Band of Heroes, okay? And we only get 2 themes for this event. So let's say they give us Creel Company and they give us Power of Dunia. You are basically starting gate fucked when it comes to units. Like right off the bat. Because Creel Company, while it has some okay shooting potential, you don't have the real strong scoring units because they're all shooting, and you don't really have any meat to take in. And so then you look at the other side of the coin, you look at Power Dunia, and that's nothing but a beast brick. So then it's like you don't have a lot of strong unit removal capabilities, and basically they're not saying any theme is available. You have to play specific themes, and you have to play specific casters. So unless I get one of the 2 Grims in my 4-caster ADR, which currently we have Grim 1, so that means he's leaving. So unless Grim 2 immediately comes in, then we already are playing down if Creel Company is one of those lists. Because I'm not playing Calandra in Creel Company. I'm not playing Madrak in Creel Company. You see what I'm saying? It's just I
feel like we're bouncing back and forth between 2 different arguments here. Because at one time, you're arguing about the actual power level and our belief in Privateer Press to select the correct themes and the correct casters, which historically I'm not really going to back them on that. But you've also argued about, painting a whole list and creating a cohesive looking army. And I feel like having restricted themes actually makes players create a cohesively themed army instead of just a random grab bag of shit in their army that makes it powerful.
Unless I can agree with that. It gives you a little bit of direction, but I will disagree in the fact that if you are someone like myself who paints slower than molasses and you're excited about paint, it takes the excitement out of being able to paint what you want. And that's what irritates me. If I want to play Berka, who I'm painting currently while we record this, if I want to play Berka in Champions and he just doesn't happen to hit the ADR, which at Nova he's not going to because he's currently on the ADR, then that means that no matter how much time I take to spend on him, he's not going to make it onto the table.
Borka 2's in the CID for next, so you get Borka 2.
Get him.
I feel like that was a bear hug.
I thought
one would say it'd be unbearable.
Now.
Yeah, that not everybody falls off. So currently in the CID for Trolls, it's Calandra, Doomshaper 3, Gristle 2. What's Marshall, 1 or 2? 2. And then Borka 2 in either Power of Dunia or Storm of the North. So I hear your complaint. I'm just letting you know your pairing's not that bad.
Right, but what I'm saying is without looking at it, I'm talking about the rule set in general, and it just seems like...
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And that's just what's kind of irritating me because I can look at all these reasons. Now, thankfully, I'm really happy that I can play Borka, so, too, that's exciting. But it's just one of those things, I just felt like, whenever I would get ready for the next year Champions, I would go, okay, who am I excited about? Because I'm not exactly a power gamer. I would pick that caster, I would go crazy, and I knew no matter what, even if it took me an entire year after Nova to get my list ready, I was ready to go. And I just feel like with this format, I'm going to sit there, be biting my nails come June going, please let it be this. Please let it be that. Please,
And
you know?
I almost feel like Gaston actually just hit my concern on the head, and I didn't even realize that was the reason why I lost interest, is with the pairing of casters, limited casters, and the pairing of themes, Privateer Press really has to do their homework to make sure that everybody's got a decent grouping of casters to themes. And I'm sorry, Privateer Press, I don't have the comfort in believing you'll do that for every single faction.
Yeah, but that's why they put it through CID. That's the whole point of them putting it through the CID process.
How many people are really that excited about Champions?
It was kind of ironic for Protectorate because they took out Exemplar Interdiction and added Vindictus.
Yeah, let's put in the caster that loves Exemplar Interdiction and take out the theme Exemplar Interdiction. What the fuck?
Which, for the people listening, the real reason he's grumpy is that Exemplar Interdiction is not in there.
Yes.
That's the actual source of all this grumpiness.
Fact. I was super excited about that. I was painting Exemplars, and they're like, oh, it's out of Champions. And I'm like, motherfucker. Herman got a good 2 hours of texting on that one.
So, all right.
I know shit.
Let's get this wrapped up because it's past our time. So we can, let's just do some final thoughts on it so we can get wrapped up.
I honestly, my last thought was my final thought. I think my concern with the Champions format is based around, I don't know if I trust Privateer Press to get those pairings right.
My current thought on it is that my current favorite competitive pair is Arcadius and Jaga, and they're both in Champions, so suck it.
Devin?
And I don't really get to do much with it because I'm just going to end up running it, so...
That's true.
But I want people to know where I stand on it because it's like, I just feel like I think there's just too much changing for the sake of changing, you know?
Motherfucker, you get Blindwater Congregation and will work for food? You bitch!
I'm going to touch you so hard.
No, and I think that's my thing. It's like I'm really happy with where the CID process has gone, and I think that a lot of the changes I've seen recently have been really positive. And as much as I might argue with some of my other, my friends on the channel, it's one of those things. Like I just feel like sometimes recently they're just changing things to change things, and I just don't know if it makes sense of even why, because there was nothing wrong with Champions. People were having a blast last year, and it's like, I don't know. That's where I stand on that. So,
all right, cool. So I want to thank everyone for listening to another episode of Turn Extension. Have a good one.